Tattersall leads Yorkshire recovery after Wood Pfeiffer sparks collapse. Yorkshire's faint hopes of a tilt at the Division 1 title look to be diminishing as both Essex and Somerset battle for control at the top of the table. But the Tykes will hope to pick up another victory in Scarborough and finally lay to rest any lingering doubts about their form at the famous old ground. But with conditions at the start of the match looking likely to favour the bowlers, Nott took their opportunity to take to the field and put their hosts under pressure. And the morning belonged to Luke Wood. He tempted Lyth to prod at one wide of his off stump, the opener caught behind for 4, before Balance followed caught at point for a duck. Tom Kohler-Cadmore succumbed in Wood's next over, bowled for 1 as he pushed forward. And within the space of 30 morning session minutes, Wood had 4 for. Harry Brook, his next victim, caught behind for 6, not well on top. Tattersall and Frayne did well to stem the flow of wickets for a time, but Wood's Pfeiffer was soon confirmed. Opener Frayne caught by Nash at third slip, the home side adrift on their trip to the seaside. Tim Bresnan is a man who's seen it all, and his experience was in dire need as he joined Tattersall at the crease. The pair finally put together the partnership Yorkshire had been craving, the score starting to creep upwards, first past 50 and then towards 100, heading into lunch with a more respectable return of 82 for 5. If the first session belonged to Luke Wood and Notts, the second was decidedly Yorkshire's. With a decent rebuilding job done, Bresnan and Tattersall now look to bat Yorkshire into the game, and they set about doing just that. The first target of 100 breezed by without incident, both men finding 4s as the session got up and running. They brought up the 150, Yorkshire now batting confidently, Nottinghamshire struggling to make any inroads. But finally they removed the veteran former England international, caught behind off Patterson White for 58. Maharaj looked in attacking mood, his first scoring shot clearing the boundary. But it would be a brief innings from the South African. He was bowled by Fletcher for just 7. By the time they'd reached tea, the score was a much healthier 192 for 7. Tattersall had batted well to rescue his side, and when play resumed he had one eye on a century. He stayed at the crease long enough to see Yorkshire pass 200, but would fall 8 runs short of his century, Patterson White seeing him caught behind. Another fell in his next over, Ben Code out LBW for 4. And it was the young Notts bowler who brought an end to the innings. Olivier bowled for 14, Yorkshire all out for 232. Notts had bowled well early on but had struggled to maintain momentum, giving Yorkshire the opening they needed to drag themselves back into the game. Bresnan and Tattersall had duly delivered. So it was over to Notts to respond, Libby and Slater taking to the crease to get their innings up and running. And they got off to a good start. Olivier and Code negotiated in the opening overs. A change of bowling didn't see a change of fortune. Maharaj and Patterson unable to find the breakthrough, Notts batting their way to 41 without loss at the close of play. On the balance of play, it had been Nottinghamshire's day. They'd bowled well early on but had struggled to maintain momentum, giving Yorkshire the opening they needed to drag themselves back into the game. Bresnan and Tattersall had duly delivered. Luke Wood's opening spell will live long in the memory. Notts now need to bat their way into control of the match if this is to be their first win of the County Championship season. Nottinghamshire collapse allows Yorkshire to take charge in Scarborough. It had been a day of 2 halves as this contest got underway in Scarborough, Notts seamer Luke Wood causing carnage in the morning, but Yorkshire's Jonathan Tattersall and Tim Bresnan dug in to help their side to a more respectable score than the early exchanges suggested was possible. That total of 232 had given way to a lead of 191 at the close of play, Notts openers Jake Libby and Ben Slater having made a decent start. But their partnership was broken with the first ball of the day. Slater caught behind off the bowling of Code for 19, just the start Yorkshire were looking for. It wouldn't be long before the other Notts opener was trudging back to the pavilion, dragging one from Dwayne Olivier onto his leg stump, out for 18. Nash and Clark looked to steady the ship, the veteran Notts man counter-punching and passing 1,000 runs for the county in the process. He fell with his side 10 runs short of the 100. chipping a catch back to Olafia to depart for 33. Clark would follow with just 7 runs added to the total, caught behind off code. The Nottinghamshire innings now teetering towards another collapse. Duckett steered his side into 3 figures and hit the first 6 of the innings. Maharaj dispatched over the rope onto the pavilion roof. His was an innings of resistance, holding back the tide as Notts looked to regroup ahead of the lunch interval. But he'd only be able to keep the Yorkshire attack at bay for so long. Maharaj getting revenge, the number 5 bowled for 13. Patterson-White's wicket brought an end to the morning session. Patterson, the man with the dismissal, another batsman caught behind. It had been a tough morning for the visitors, losing 6 wickets for just 90 runs. Yorkshire on top heading into the afternoon. The momentum continued in Yorkshire's favour. Notts able to add just 1 run before Coughlin fell, caught by Brooke off the bowling of Maharaj. Moores and Wood went on the attack, Maharaj disappearing over the boundary twice in 1 over. The Notts bowler departed for 6, edging Code through to Lythe. Moores ploughed on, finding the boundary once more, before he too would go, caught behind for 48. Last man Fletcher soon followed, Olafia picking up his 2nd of the over and 4th of the innings. Notts all out for 184, 48 runs short of the host total. There had been such promise at the beginning and the end of the first day, but Notts had crumbled once again. A handful of starts from the side, not enough to get them on level terms with Yorkshire. The Nottinghamshire collapse handed the initiative to Yorkshire and gave openers Lythe and Frayne the opportunity to put their side in a commanding position heading into the final session. And they'd put on a 61-run partnership in the remaining overs before tea, both finding the boundary as Yorkshire stretched their lead past 3 figures. Frayne fell shortly after the restart though, Luke Fletcher trapping the opener in front for 24. Balance picked up the baton and Yorkshire's total grew towards 100, Lythe knocking on the door of his half-century. That came as they reached 3 figures, Lythe relishing a return to his home ground. Balance took on the role of aggressor, dealing mainly in boundaries. He picked up a 50 of his own, another 4 off Patterson-White taking him to the milestone. Yorkshire looked to be heading towards the close of play without further loss, but Lythe's innings on the ground on which he made his name was to come to an end, sweeping Patterson-White into the hands of Coughlin at fine leg, with just 9 balls remaining in the day. That was the last wicket to fall, night watchman Stephen Patterson negotiating the final few balls alongside Balance to see Yorkshire finish the day on 184, with a lead of 225. While the first day of play had swung one way and then the other, the second belonged to the home side. They had been ruthless with the ball and taken full advantage of the chance to increase their lead heading into the 3rd day. It looks increasingly likely that Notts will have to wait even longer for their first win of the season. Notts dig in to force final day finish in Scarborough. Yorkshire enjoyed themselves on day 2 at Scarborough. They bowled Notts out for 184 and started their second innings with a healthy 48-run lead. And then opener Adam Lythe picked up a tidy 81 on the ground where he started his career. They were in confident mood heading into the 3rd day, Notts once again struggling to make inroads as they battled to save themselves from yet another defeat. The home side resumed on 177 for 2, their lead a substantial 225 runs. But Patterson fell early, edging Coughlin to Nash in the slips for 9. And Luke Wood's return to the attack had an immediate effect, Balance only able to top edge his first delivery to substitute fielder Lewis Barbara, who took a fantastic catch at long leg. Harry Brooke and Tom Kohler-Cadmore's partnership was enough to see Yorkshire past 200. Liam Patterson-White found another wicket, Brooke this time finding the fielder as he attempted to hit the spinner for 6, only to pick out Wood at mid-on. They headed into lunch a few overs later, the score 240 for 5, their lead now 288 runs. Kohler-Cadmore was batting well, now joined by first innings hero Tattersall, who went on the attack. Boundaries flowed from the number 5's bat, finding himself on the cusp of a 50. That would come with a single off Fletcher, but he lost his partner to the next ball. Tattersall caught it slip as the new ball began to talk. Bresnan, so brilliant in the first innings, also fell to an edge off Fletcher, Moores taking the catch behind the stumps. Maharaj brought attacking intent with him as he strode out to the middle, dispatching Ball and Fletcher to the boundary. But he'd have to bat on without Kola Cadmore. He played no shot to a Fletcher in-swinger and was given out LBW. Fletcher picked up his fifer a few overs later, Code caught by Coughlin in the slips. 2 sixes from Maharaj followed in the next over before he fell, Coughlin taking the catch off his own bowling. Yorkshire all out for 338, their lead 387 and tea taken. Notts didn't get off to the best of starts. There were just 29 runs on the board when Slater was removed by Olafia, his edge caught by Kola Cadmore. Libby and Nash looked to recover, but couldn't make it to 50 before the other Notts opener was gone. A nick behind off Patterson, taken by Tattersall behind the stumps. Clark followed a few overs later, caught behind while pushing forward at Maharaj. Duckett and Nash forged a partnership strong enough to guide Notts to 100. But the captain was unable to go any further, given out LBW to Maharaj just as the score had reached 3 figures. Duckett was now the senior batsman at the crease, and he began to play more conservatively in the final few overs of the day, looking to preserve his wicket. He and Patterson-White navigated their way through to the close of play without loss, Notts finishing the day on 135 for 4, 252 runs behind their hosts. At times it had looked like Notts would be blown away, but their second innings effort had been a vast improvement on the first and given them a chance, albeit a slim one, of forcing a result on the final day of play. Yorkshire will be confident they can pick up the final 6 wickets. The only question in their mind will be how long can their winless opponents resist. Maharaj takes 6 for as Yorkshire consign Nottinghamshire to 8 defeat. When the wicket of Maharaj just before tea on day 3 saw Yorkshire's second innings finish with the score at 338, there was an air of inevitability that winless Nottinghamshire would not reach their 387-run target. But the visitors had done their best in the final session of play to dig in, and at the very least force the match into a decisive 4th day. They reached the close on 135 for 4, still 252 runs behind the home side. They started the day with a moment of celebration, Ben Duckett picking up the runs he needed to reach his half-century in the first over of the day. And that start continued. Duckett began to play some good-looking shots as Yorkshire struggled to create opportunities early on. He was ably supported by Liam Patterson-White, the pair batting their way to a 50 partnership as the score ticked past 150. Olivier came into the attack and finally Yorkshire found the wicket they'd been hunting for. Duckett's fine innings coming to an end as he found Frayne at point. As has been the case so often this year for Notts, the loss of one wicket brought another. Moores was the next man to depart. He was well caught at short leg as Maharaj found some extra turn and bounce. Notts pushed past 200, Patterson-White sending Maharaj back over his own head for 6 to bring up his maiden 50 in the process. Coughlin had a tough time at the crease. Bresnan found the edge as the Notts man attempted to leave a ball outside off. He was followed in the next over by Luke Wood. Maharaj got one to grip to bowl the number 9, his off-stump left askew. Fletcher and Patterson-White had to survive a further 15 minutes as Yorkshire looked to wrap up the game in the first session. The pair dug in though through to the interval without further loss. The score academic at 238 for 8. Notts would add just 5 runs to the total after lunch before losing their 9th wicket. Fletcher the man to go, LBW to Maharaj for 15. And with the very next ball, the match was over. Ball bowled, Maharaj was 6 for, and Notts defeated for the 8th time this season. Yorkshire knew they were likely to pick up a result heading into the 4th day, and they'd put in a professional performance to see the match wrapped up in just over 1 session of play. Maharaj finished with figures of 6 for 95, taking 4 of the 6 wickets to fall on the final day, helping his side pick up 20 points and closed the gap on Essex at the top of Division 1 to 37 points with 3 games remaining. Notts, meanwhile, are just about clinging on at the bottom of the table. Relegation looks all but nailed on. They'll just hope to pick up at least 1 win before the end of the campaign.
Oh.